My name is Jack Gardner. I'm a Year 3 teacher at Hotspur Primary School, and I have started a project called Number 132 Malcolm Street. It's a project which is a collaboration with Historic England and the Heaton History Group. On Monday, every class arrived at school and found a video in their classrooms. And the video was a short film about two real people, a couple from the year 1917, Joseph and Christina Schell.
These two people went through the Victoria Tunnel and suddenly they were in 2017.
And then they explored it, but they didn't recognise any of it because it's 2017 and they're from 1917. So then they were wondering, where's our home? And they were looking for 132 Malcolm Street, because that's where they lived.
We have two different maps that we compared to see where Hotspur was and where Malcolm Street was.
And they got confused about what was happening.
Because it had been destroyed.
It got knocked down to build Hotspur Primary School.
The next thing, Joseph said, the only way for me to get back to my time period in 1917 is if each of the classrooms go away and find out what has happened between the year 1917 and 1984 when the school was built. What's happened in Heaton, Newcastle and the wider world.
If we do that, then that will open the Victoria Tunnel again.
We were very aware of the kind of rich environment in which we live, and we always think it's very important that our children interact with their environment. So where we are, we're in a fantastic place for lots of learning to take place. This was very much about our local area. We'd worked with Historic England, had been made aware of the wealth of resources around maps, aerial photographs, the census material, and so wanted to design a project that brought all those together and was very much rooted in our community and helped our children to understand better where they live.
Each year group was given the task to explore and find out about a different decade, from reception, who looked at the 1970s, all the way up to Year 6, who looked at the 1910s.
Every bit of information they're just grabbing on. So this morning we were looking at the 1911 census, and as they were reading it, it was something I hadn't spotted. Part of the Newcastle Railway, there was a really intricate junction. It said that in 1911 the junction had some work done to it. And again on the census it was talking about Joseph Schell and how he was a plate layer for the railways. So it was more than likely that he'd been there. And they're kind of like discovering this story and piecing all the jigsaws together. So I kind of hope the children keep that excitement about history and maybe take it not just from our area, but a bit further afield.
Yvonne Young came in to talk about the 1930s and the 1940s.
Because she's an expert on the history of Newcastle, and she told us some interesting facts.
We've been exploring the 50s and looking at the objects from that era. Things like coal houses, outside toilets, no heating, you know, the curtains stuck to the inside of the windows with the cold, people wearing hats and slippers for bed and putting mats on the bed. You know, they just can't comprehend that of how bad it was.
I think it was hard living then because they wouldn't be able to pay for much food and there wasn't as much money as here.
Do you know how much a lady got when she was working as a maid, cleaning and cooking and doing all the housework? 25 pence an hour. That was all she got. What? 25 pence an hour.
It's not as good as 2017.
A lot of them are interested in how things worked from the past, you know.
We use so much electricity now. It just seems so strange that they didn't use it.
But I've had a lot of response from them. My grandmother's got this, or my granddad had a coal fire, and it's just been brilliant, sharing memories.
And then we've had Sally Cooper coming to talk about the 1970s with reception children. We've just had loads of visitors coming in on various different days to explain what life was like in 20th century Newcastle, and more specifically, Heaton.
We've been talking about television, only 3 channels, all bad stuff. The fact that Star Wars started, that hit a note. I brought some action figures for them to see, but they're not a patch on the action figures they have today. And we talked about fashions, great big trousers and big hair. And we also learned a dance from the 70s. I think it's really important that they learn about local history, because otherwise there's nobody to carry on the traditions and to share the stories. There's so many good stories about the place that you live. And when they see the street corners, they'll say, "Ah, oh, that's a Shakespeare one, I remember that." And to have those stories to share with their children and their friends is brilliant, because it makes community, and Heaton is good on community.
And of course it isn't just about presenting learning, it is actually providing opportunities for children to go and find things out. And some of the learning just happens by accident, and you should create those kind of opportunities where accidental learning happens.
My mum and dad graduated from university in 1992. When they graduated, they were job hunting, and they said they'd go to the first job they found. They had to go live in England because that's where the job was. And they picked a street, which is where I live now, and it's 4 streets away from where my granddad used to live when he was studying in Newcastle in 1952. That was complete coincidence, because they didn't know that my granddad used to live here. And I only found the story out like a couple of nights ago.
The stories that the children have come back with of their own families and how they've ended up in Heaton and their own heritage, it's just made me love the place that I live in even more. So I'm just really, really proud of everyone this week here. It's been great.
For me, the personal highlight has been today, the culmination of the project, the bringing it together, the having all the children in the gym this morning. I like that anyway, that feeling of school community, parents and families there, people from the local community, having on one side the fabulous museum that the children have created, but alongside that some singing, some celebration, some laughter, a little bit of sadness, you know, all of that mixed in together, and that really fabulous feeling that we got. I found it quite emotional. I think other staff did. That coming together is something that we've talked about for quite a while, and there's that suspension of reality that actually they know it's not real people from the past, but it's so much more enjoyable and you get so much more out of it if you go along with that.
Joseph, all the children have found out about what's been going on in Newcastle from the 1910s to the 1970s, and it's now time to send you two back. And we've built a Hotspur time machine to send you back to 1917. So my goals for this week were for the children to have a memorable experience, something that they would remember for the rest of their days. Because when you look back at primary school, you don't remember you doing SATs, you don't remember doing, you know, arithmetic papers. What you remember are experiences that are out of the ordinary, something that bit different. I wanted to create experiences this week that would bring everybody together, and just from the level of enthusiasm and the amount they're talking about it around the school, I think I can safely say that this will be a memorable experience for all.
Well, Joseph, what a lovely bunch, what a lovely school.
Right.
A lot happened between 1917 and 2017, but if those children are anything to go by, I don't think we've got anything to worry about. I mean, they were ever so helpful.
Oh, and caring.
Thoughtful and individual.
Smart and kind.
Aspirational.
Hard at work.
They were often singing.
Very creative.
They were at Hotspur.